are ready to work on the paper piece Diamond of Personality block. So this is the second half of month 2 or month 5 or month 8 or month 11. If you're working for the first time with month 2, your fabrics are going to be red, pink, and orange. We're actually working on the last quadrant, and so our colors are green, aqua, and lime.
And we're doing the cream background instead of the black background. But you've got this. This is not a difficult paper piece at all.
Now, I made a backup plan for you. If you absolutely despise paper piecing, we want you not to quit, throw in the towel. I would love for you to try it, but we have a backup block for you. So there is a non-paper piecing option. It's just the same that you made just recently. It's the birds in the air block, and you would just make it with your 3 colors in your quadrant and use that instead. It's the same size, 6.5 inches. So let's move on with the paper piecing the Diamonds of Personality. The first thing you're going to do is you're going to make a copy of your pattern instructions on page 9. So I made a copy on Carol Doak paper. And then, of course, I cut it apart so it's a little easier. One thing I want you to note, check your copy size. I have one of my printers or my copy machines does not print really accurately. So if you make a copy, be sure to measure from this line to this line, and it should measure 6.5 inches. If it's measuring small or big, you're going to need to adjust that a little bit or use a different copy machine. The next thing that you're going to do is you're going to trace the lines on the back side of your copy, and it's sloppy. Don't get out the ruler. Don't make it perfect. Basically, what these lines are going to do are they're just going to help us position our fabric. It's not that we're sewing on these lines. They're just guidelines. So don't spend a ton of time worrying about them being straight or perfect. The other thing that I did is I transferred the colors from the front. You see you have either black or cream, or it might be red, blue, yellow, or green. Now our background is cream. Your black background is likely to be black. And then, of course, the first quadrant colors on the top, second quadrant is the second, third quadrant, and then the fourth quadrant. So that will help you with your color placement. So I transferred the colors to the back side so that when I'm positioning my colors, it'll be an easy quick read on what color I'm grabbing.
And we take out all the guesswork because you'll have cutting sizes. So you'll be able to cut your colors that you need for your paper piecing and have them all prepared and ready ahead of time. All right, I think we're ready to take this to the sewing machine, don't you, Lisa?
I think so too.
Let's go.
You should have your pieces ready. You've got a copy. You've traced the lines to the back side. And now we're going to start in numerical order. So I'm going to start with my A piece. So we got an A piece and a B piece, and I'm going to start with number 1. Number 1 is going to be right sides up, and I'm just going to estimate just about 1/4 inch above that line. I want to be sure that I am beyond the outside edges, and then I'm just going to stick a pin in it. Next, I'm going to get piece number 2, and I wrote a note that said it's going to be aqua. So I'll find my aqua piece. Now this time the piece is going to be right sides together. So you're going to lay it along that edge that we had guessed about 1/4 inch, and then you're going to audition it to make sure if you had sewed on that, 1/4 inch or on that line, it's going to go beyond all of the outside lines that we need for it to cover in space number 2. It looks pretty good, so I'm going to line it up again. Kind of slid down. I switched the sewing machine foot to an open toe. I like using an open toe because it allows me to see the line a little better. And my stitch length is now a 1.8. I like to sew with a smaller stitch. It keeps the seams from unraveling at the ends. But if you tend to do more seam ripping because you're new at it, you can leave it at 2 or 2.5 until you get the knack. So now I just flipped it over. I'm now on the printed side of the paper, and I'm going to sew on the line between A1 and A2 beginning and ending where the line ends. If your sewing machine does a nice little stay stitch, it's always good to have that turned on. I'm going to remove my pins. Now if I had an iron that was really close to my sewing machine, I would press that, but I'm just going to give it a good little finger pressing just for our demo. Now I'm going to flip it over, and now we're going to add A3, but if we look at A3 is going to be green, so I'm going to get my green square. But you're going to go right sides together, but you know, it's kind of hard to see that line, right? It's so hard to just guess. So this is my trick. I'll go to the back side. I'm going to fold the paper between the line between A2 and A3, right on that line. And if I had a postcard, do you have a postcard, Laura?
I do, right in that basket right there up at the, you see right there? It's one of my favorite postcards. It's, it has material. Look at that cute little picture that's on that postcard.
It's an excellent postcard to use for paper piecing. So it's easy to lay that postcard down on that line, fold it back. Now this is folded out, and I like an add 1/4 inch ruler. So what this does is you have a little lip, and it will grab that postcard quite nicely. You can use a regular ruler, but the add 1/4, I think it saves time. All right, so now what I just did is I pre-cut my 1/4 inch seam so you can see where my position is. Now it's going to be a lot easier to position my green fabric. So that's going to work just fine. I'm going to stick a pin in that. Flip it over and sew on that line between A2 and A3. Do a quick little finger press. Now our next piece that we're going to add is a cream A4. And of course, in order to see the line that we're going to sew on, I'm just going to put the card on the line between A3 and A4, fold the paper back, use my add 1/4 inch ruler, trim off that extra too. Now my 1/4 inch is now pre-cut. So I'll take my A4 piece, and with right sides together, so I might want this one. There we go, just like that. I'm going to audition it, make sure it's flat. I'm going to flip it over as if I'd sewn, and now it looks like it's going to cover it just fine. So I'll stick a pin in this. And I'm going to sew right on the line between A3 and A4. you go. So this unit is now sewn. So I would give it a good pressing before I trimmed it. But when I trim it, I'm going to trim on the outside line. The inside line is your seam allowance. So be sure that when you trim yours out, you're trimming out on the outside line. And of course it's the 1, 2, 3, same as the other one. This time you're going to start with your smaller piece, then go to the lime and then the green and then the cream. The reason you go backwards is so that when you sew your two pieces together, your seams are going to nest and it'll make it easier to sew together. Now, I like to pull my paper off after I've cut my, on the outside line, I'll pull the paper off before I sew my two units together. Some people leave their paper on until it's all done. Totally up to you on what you get, the results that you're getting. So I just find it's easier not to have to sew through 2 additional pieces of paper. Alrighty, I'm ready to tear my paper away.
Me too.
So when you tear the paper, what I like to do is I just seam it back.
Seam it back.
And then I rip to the seam in the center and tear to the corner.
That was fun. Let's do it out again.
Get out our aggressions. Just rip to the seam and then tear it away.
And that doesn't put very much stress on the seam at all.
No.
So Lisa, what if I just love doing this paper piece
I absolutely love doing paper piecing. So, you know what I did? On Marcus's website, Marcus Fabrics, and I'll leave the link somewhere in this video, I did an entire quilt design just on this block.
Cool.
Isn't that cool? So we're going to just go right sides together, sew that together. But the block, the Diamonds of Personality, you can do this and make an entire quilt, and it really is a cool quilt. So you can download the free pattern. You already know how to make the diamonds, so have fun.
Awesome. All right, one more piece to add to the design wall. I know, oh, my glass is here. I know, it's so tempting. We always think we ought to put it this way, but it's not. It goes this way. And there we go. And can't wait to sew it all together. All right. Now we have the fusible applique for month 3, and we're ready to get to work.